Ooh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Master Your Mental podcast. I am very excited to bring on my special guest today, who will be diving deep into the meaning behind today's episode on breaking the silence. Leigh Hearl is the mastermind behind Meg Heart, a business that works to get important stories told. We're going to hear about one of those stories today, along with the skills that you can apply to your everyday life to break through these obstacles and uncomfortable silences when mental health secrets are concerned. So, without further ado, welcome Leigh to the podcast.
Thank you, Paris. It is so good to be here. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today
I know. And you are coming to us all the way from
from Australia on
Australia.
the Gold
Yes.
Coast.
I know, if you guys can't hear her accent, how amazing and just so cute. But her story is so powerful. So I can't wait to get into it and just really have her tell you guys more about what this is all about and what you can really take away from it. So if you could just tell us, why did you start Meg Heart and who did you start it for?
Well, I started Meg Heart. It's been a long time coming, really, because many years ago, I married young and had three beautiful children. And I kept a secret. And that secret weighed so heavy on me. And I was silenced because mostly by shame, but there was some guilt and regret in there. And due to that, I ended up spiraling down into depression, anxiety, and I even had suicidal thoughts. And all the work I did and finally broke my silence. And I realized some powerful things, which we can get into a bit later. But once I actually broke my silence, I told a close girlfriend of mine that I need to tell you something. And it was then that I started my healing journey. And it was very powerful and helped me make decisions I should have made a long time ago. And then once I got to a really good place in my life and at peace with things, I started to look around and I could see so many other people silenced by shame, just stuck in that trauma rut and unable to get out. And I just knew I had to do something. And I'd been looking around, I didn't know how. And it's amazing how the universe comes and shows us little signs. And it wasn't actually until I helped a very close person dear to me called Rose. Well, Rose isn't actually her real name, but I helped her through and went through all of her, lived her trauma with her and helped her on a healing journey. And that's when I realized this story needs to be told and we need to start breaking our silence. We need to start lifting our lid on what's going on for many, many reasons, but we also need to help people to start to heal. And the only way they can really start is by breaking their silence. That is the crucial first step.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love also how you talk about not only your own personal journey, but helping your friend as well. And then seeing the common factors that relate to that, right? Like you talked about shame and trauma and these different contributing factors that keep us silent or fearful of sharing or reaching out for help or, talking to someone about these things, because like you said, like you mentioned, and many of us know, how difficult and challenging that can be, especially when you're not even sure how to begin the conversation or if you should, or when the timing and all these things, all of these factors. So, that really, it's so important that you were that person for Rose, like you said. And I know that's not her real name, but it's still your friend that you helped through this. So what was that journey like? So what for you, when you talk about breaking the silence, which I love how you talk about that being the biggest part in overcoming this, to really share that, what would you say is, because I know you have this incredible story as well that I was really excited to see about. So Carbon, under pressure that I'm sure we're going to be talking about. Yes. Oh my gosh. And getting into that. So would you say for storytelling, what would you consider to be a powerful way to start to break the silence?
I think for people, so I won't talk about storytelling at the moment, but for people to initially break their silence, the best thing is for them to understand, if I can get the message out there that they don't need to stay in this trauma cycle, they can actually heal. But they can't begin to heal until they speak out and start breaking their silence. And the best way to do that is find someone you trust, whether it be a friend, a family member, a colleague. You can even confide in someone anonymously. There's Post a Secret, on Instagram, which is fantastic. You can submit to us. You can break your silence with us. But it's really important that you find someone to start having that conversation with and really speaking your truth, because when you start to do that, you start to see things for what they really are. You start to acknowledge them. But the big and most important thing is what is keeping you silent, which most often is shame, guilt, or regret. But you start to shift those off your shoulder. And where there is a perpetrator, you actually put it back on them where it belongs. So it's not your shoulders to bear. You should not bear this shame. You need to shift it and move it to where it belongs, and it doesn't belong on your shoulders. So that's really important. And when you start to speak out and talk about it, then that's when you start to have that mindset, that shift. And for me personally, and going through supporting Rose as well, I can tell you the weight that lifted off my shoulders was incredible. And then I started to see things a lot clearer. I also had the support that I didn't have before. So I was able to, lean on and have people support me, ask me questions, give me different perspectives, and also hold me accountable in what I needed to do to make those changes in my life. And there's another really important thing in there as well. When you're in a situation where you are being abused in some sort of way, and I'm not just talking about domestic violence, sexual violence, child sexual abuse, but even teenagers or people in the workplace, any kind of bullying or things like that. Once you start to speak out and acknowledge it, you can start to then shift that, but also no longer be vulnerable to them, because you're starting to own it and you're starting to hold them accountable. Even if it's just in your own mind initially, because people that are victims of any kinds of abuse, when they are silenced, they continue to remain vulnerable to that abuse. Does
Wow.
that make sense?
Oh no, that's really good. I'm sitting here because you guys always know I have my notebook where I literally write down all of these key things that you mentioned. So I make sure that we don't miss anything when we're going to highlight all of this, because I love how you talk about especially accountability in that. And then also moving the shame off the shoulders of that person through speaking out about it and having to move away from that aspect of vulnerability is a bad thing. It's a bad thing, or it's a weakness, or it's something that we shouldn't want to step into. And I'd love if you could share like a little about your experience, right? So when you first started this with yourself and your own story, what was that journey like for you of starting yourself to be vulnerable and open up and heal these different things? What was that like for you?
It was very difficult initially. I think it was extremely difficult. When I look back, I just get this flutter because I can really feel it and I really remember it. And it was because I kept telling myself, once you say something, you can't take it back. Like, what impact will that have on my children? I don't want to bring shame to my children. I don't want to hurt my family. I don't want to break my children's lives up. And so I had a lot of fear as well attached to it. And it was when I finally just knew that my life wasn't going to end pretty if I didn't break my silence. So I got to a really, really low point where a girlfriend came around. She knew I was struggling and she was very compassionate and understanding. And that's when I said to her, I'd been toying with it for so long and I just broke it and said, I need to tell you something. And that was the precipice. Like, it was just, and I speak about it in my TED talk. It was like dipping my toe in the water to see how she reacted. Like, and as soon as she gave me that warmth and understanding and compassion, it just came out. And when it came out and I saw her response, that's when I realized, my God, why did I wait so long? You know, why I just felt like I'd wasted so much time, so much precious time.
And when you talk about that, the period of waiting, how long would you say that you waited to share that?
I would say it was nearly 10 years.
Oh, wow. And you told you first told your friend, right?
Yep. My girlfriend. Yep.
Oh my gosh. And then and then after that, what was that like after? So after that conversation with her, what were your next steps?
My next steps was I said, okay, I need to do something about this. So I knew I needed to leave my marriage. I needed to get out of there. It wasn't safe for me. And I didn't know how. But talking to her, I was able to start processing it and take baby steps. And I think that's another really important thing I want to let people know, because there may be people out there that are listening that haven't had something really traumatic in their life, but they've had someone, or they may have someone approach them moving forward. And it's really important just to be there and be present, because when you've got your life together and things are going well, you can see everything clearly. But when you've been holding on to a secret that has weighed so heavy on you that it has caused, so much pain, depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts, it's really hard to see clearly and to really focus. So even though you can see, it's really important for you to help guide them, but let them process their emotions and their feelings as they talk about them, so it starts to become clearer to them. So then they are empowered to make the decisions that are best for them, not you telling them what to do and how to fix it. And I can't stress that enough. That is so important, to just sit there and be present. And it's ironic, in the book with Rose, she went through horrific trauma, and she learned that with her daughter, that she couldn't fix her. She needed to be present and have faith that she would be able to process it and get through it with her by her side. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, especially when you talk about it is not telling them what to do, but being present and having that outlet for them to express to you, because that almost seems like, especially when you're talking about different types of trauma and abuse, the person might be used to people telling them what to do, or, different things. So to actually have someone, who's there, who is listening and able to be that person for you to express those things, like in a safe area without feeling judged or criticized, or like you shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be talking about this. I love that example, especially when you bring that up, because that's a big thing that can hold people back, is the fear of, okay, what if I say this, and then they just say, okay, well, go do, go see a therapist, or,
You need
just,
to do this, or this
yes.
is what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 and that's that's actually the worst thing you can do,
Mm-hmm.
because you also push them away as well. And the tone is you've already made your decision, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of in some ways can imply that you've made a judgment. And the last thing they need is people casting judgment
Mm-hmm.
on them. And you know what? The worst thing is, as parents, we are the worst at it, me included, and Rose was as well. All she wanted to do was to fix her daughter. And of
Mhm.
course you do. When your child's dying, or, in their life's in danger, all you want to do is fix them.
Mhm. So if you could, so talking about Rose, so what was her story, that for Rose, like what was her story and what did that look like to be able to tell that?
So Rose's story was she actually woke up to a nightmare, where she found her daughter overdosed trying to end her life. And she then she takes us, it's really raw and real and
Mhm.
honest. She takes us inside her mind and her heart, how she just really struggles to, one, save her daughter, but also to try and uncover and work out how to help her.
Mm.
And what she discovered was that her daughter had been living with this horrific secret and suffering in silence for longer than she could have ever imagined.
Mm.
And it's really, it's very it's, heartbreaking, but it's also very moving, because there's so many lessons throughout the journey, because Rose speaks so honestly about it,
Mhm.
and she reflects back on her life and where she went wrong and the things that she did. So it's really, so we go through this journey, and it's a period of 3 years, and it ends up being where Rose ends up having to fight to save 3 lives in the
Oh,
book.
wow. And this is
Mm,
based on the story of your friend,
yes.
under a different a name.
Yes, and actually, that's a good time to really reveal. So, because a lot of your listeners are in
Mhm.
the United States, and what happened with Rose was, when I went, where she was going through a healing journey, and then I was supporting her. I got her to write, and this is where I really found it therapeutic. And we went through this writing process, and it was incredible, the healing that occurred throughout it. And it was, we knew we wanted to bring this story to the world.
Mhm.
And I needed to get legal advice, because we've got some pretty crazy, screwed up laws here in Australia,
Mhm.
where our laws actually protect the perpetrator.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, protect the privacy of the
And is
perpetrator.
that why
So,
you used
vic-
the other name?
yes.
Mhm.
So victims can't speak out.
Oh.
So we got legal advice, and it was given to us that Rose could either not tell her story, or she could take crucial parts in her story out, or she could write it under a pseudonym or another name. And that's when Meg Heart was really, really born then, because that's when we thought, my God, we need to bring these real stories to the
Mhm.
world, for three main reasons. One is to help others and inspire them to speak out and break their silence. But another one is to inspire others to, share their stories. But we also want, if we don't speak about what's really going on in our legal system, our mental health system, our health
Mhm.
system, our political systems, if we don't speak out about what's really happening, how the hell do we know
Mhm.
what's going on and what needs to be fixed? So we need to ignite these conversations that will lead to positive change as well. So there's a lot of different umbrellas, or real missions under the whole Meg Heart name.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's another thing that ties back into what you're talking about here with breaking the silence, right? Of talking about people's real experiences, because sometimes, like when you watch a show or a movie, you'll see like a mental health system or maybe a hospital or a facility, and they'll be showing like a scene, and then people would think, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's how it really is, when really
Mm.
it's not like you see. So when you can actually
Yes.
hear people saying, okay, hey, this was my experience, and what happened to me when I went through this obstacle or this barrier with my child who experienced a trauma, or maybe it was it you that experienced something, or someone close to you, a friend, a family member, and you just want to learn more about how to help them, about what to do, or how to be there, or how
Exactly.
to be supportive, because a lot of it too, as I'm sure you definitely know, is the support system, and having that, especially your environment, right? And your relationships. And that's what you said, because you did mention a really good point of it's hard to see clearly when you're almost clouded with the past experiences and things that have happened that are still continuing to show up in different ways in the current period. So I love that you bring that up, because when you do have those people, like you said, for you had a friend that you were able to say, I'm going to tell my friend after 10 years of not, maybe you never thought you would ever say anything or ever tell anyone. And then
No.
you finally were like, okay, I'm going to tell my friend this. And then being able to do that is almost like a ripple effect, because now you're able to share your story of how you did that. So other people who are understanding this and thinking, wow, I can start to deconstruct or tap into my experiences and have a better understanding of, what's going on and how to really handle that today in the present, and to move forward, like you said. And that's what I really like how you touched on that too, of being able to have that thing, which is writing, is therapeutic. Like you said, you
Yes.
telling them to write and journal or get your thoughts out, or you don't have to all no everyone has to write a book, right? But if
No.
you want to and you feel called to, that's amazing. And that's something that, with you. So I'd love to hear more about Meg Heart. So if you could tell us a little bit
Oh,
more, kind of a little bit more of like the history, the
yeah.
idea of how it came to you, and a little bit more of what it's all about. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So Meg Heart's actually still in its infancy, but
Mhm.
we know just from feedback and everything, we've got grand plans for it.
Mhm.
So the first of which is I'm wanting to turn Meg Heart into a foundation, the
Mhm.
Meg Heart Foundation. So um, over here in Australia, it actually costs money to do that.
Mhm.
So we're hoping to do that very soon. But with Meg Heart, as I said to you, I think the three big visions I have for Meg Heart is supporting people to start breaking their silence, and then sharing those stories so to inspire others to do so,
Mhm.
but also publishing and speaking out about those stories to really wake us up and ignite those conversations.
Mhm.
So those things are really, really important to me. So what we're working on behind the scenes, I've got a team of incredible women who are just been so supportive through this and are just as passionate as me about it, that have joined in our cause. And we're looking at the moment, we're developing Writing to Heal programs. So we will be hopefully having that launch later this year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And, these Writing to Heal programs are really, so we've had a few people go through it now, and including myself, like it's really what I did. And then supported Rose in as
Mhm.
well. So, and we've got a psychologist who's on board to really guide as well and support. And we've also got a lawyer as well who's very committed and will also always ensure that everyone is protected. So that's
Wow.
one of our big things. Then we've got another book in the pipeline. So, and then the other thing we're really hoping is so many people that have read Carbon Under Pressure, our first book about Rose. So many people have said they couldn't put it down. They said it's unput downable, but they've also been saying that it should be made into a movie. So, and it would be an incredibly powerful movie. So that's another goal we have that we really want to tick off as well.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I just love hearing
Mm.
that. So, for the first piece that you mentioned, so for the foundation piece, so when you do, so with the foundation, who would you want to be working with or benefiting in the foundation?
We want to benefit everyone.
Yes.
Everyone that needs to break their silence and needs support in some way. And we will just keep working to evolve and do what we can. So people in the program, that need to do a Writing to Heal program, once we've got it developed, we welcome anyone, really.
Oh, I love
There
that.
is no where everyone deserves to heal.
And I love
Everyone.
that you talk about
Sorry.
the Writing to Heal program that you're also you started that, right? You had a couple
Mm,
people go through and you even did it. You did it too.
yes. Yes. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. So, and that's where then I showed Rose and helped Rose. And that's when it's like, oh my God, this works. This helps. This is very powerful. So we just went, well, how do we help others?
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing too, I think, and it's probably further down the track, but I'm very visionary, is I really believe that we could really make so much positive change to our society that we can start to raise our children into a culture where they they know no different but to speak out.
Mm,
They aren't silenced. They learn at an early age not to bear shame, to
wow.
speak out. Imagine if we could do that. Imagine if we raised our children and grandchildren to speak out. The incidence of abuse would reduce. Mental health illness would
Mhm.
reduce. Our suicide, epidemic we're facing will
Mhm.
reduce.
No, that's especially when you talk about the ripple effect of that, of starting that. Cause I know when you think about as time passes, right? So like different generations, and I know just for me, talking about, with how mental health is becoming more talked about, but then you say, in the future to have it to where no one has the stigma anymore associated with it, where it's more common to speak out and share it than to hold it in, so that, like you said, like that would decrease so many of the things that we see with the just different things happening with abuse and crime and neglect and all of these things that kind of trickle down. So having that would be amazing. And I love that you put something together to help people with that key piece of writing, which is something that all of us can have access to when we grab a notebook or a piece of paper and just write down your feelings, your emotions, experiences, stories, whatever, however you want to do it, in a way to express that. And then and then even share that with others if that's something that you want to do, which is amazing that you did that with Rose. And you talk about with Carbon Under Pressure and one day turning it into a movie, which I think would be awesome. Would love. So cool.
Yes.
But oh my gosh. And then I love that because when you talk about this for with the story, what was for you, like what has been the most therapeutic aspect that you've been able to tap into with breaking your silence?
God, the most therapeutic. Um, God, there's so many.
I
There's
know.
so there's so many. You can't shut me up, really. Um, I think the most therapeutic aspect for me was the shift in the shame.
Mm.
That was incredible because I actually, reflect back my childhood, the way I was raised in my family was very much a family where you don't bring shame to the family. So when you look back, I was conditioned to it, to keep this secret and what have you. So looking back, breaking that shame and lifting that shame off my shoulders and moving it to where it belonged would have to have been the most therapeutic part, because then everything started to flow from there. And I actually started to see me, this
Oh,
person
wow.
that I've never been. And I really discovered that I was actually a really strong, driven, determined, and compassionate person
Oh my
that
gosh.
I never thought I was. I believed I believed that I didn't even belong on this earth. I believed that my children, I'm going to get emotional. My children deserve so much better.
Mhm.
I believed I was a failure,
Mhm.
and what kind of one life is that to lead? But what kind of life is that to show your children?
Wow, that shift in shame. I love that how you put that, and to really have that be moved, and especially with opening up with that when you started with that. I know another big thing for us when we're talking about this is how how did you go about building that support system? Like how did you create, cuz I mean when you're talking about having that support system through your friend, right? Did you have what was the process like for you after that? Did you
Yeah.
have other people that
Yeah.
you were, or how did you build that support system?
So I started to get the confidence. The more I was able to speak about it, I started to get the confidence to finally speak my truth to other people close to me in my life, like people like my parents.
Mhm. What was that like?
Oh, that was huge. That was difficult. That was
Mhm.
very, very difficult. But it moved us closer than I ever thought could be possible. So it really it was incredible, actually. And I confided in other family members, in some other friends. So I really started to build a great network of people around me.
Mhm.
And I was determined to really change my life and make something, and not let what happened to me define me.
Mm.
I was not going to be a victim
Mhm.
any longer. And that was one thing. So I decided I wasn't going to be poor me. I wasn't going to sit in the victim mode. I was going to do all I could. So I think that's another big thing. It's great to break your silence, and it's really important. It's really important to talk about it. But then we need to start to take the steps. And
Mhm.
that's where the healing program that we've talked on, because it's not just about writing like it is, but it's also having the tools to really help you. We go through a process, and it's almost like you go and pull out each thorn that's been stabbed and stuck in your side and has been
Mhm.
festering away for all these years. So it's like we go back to and pull each one of these thorns out one at a time and really heal it. So it's, yeah, that process. So it's really important to
Mhm.
take the necessary steps in your healing journey the way you want to do it.
And that's beautiful that you were able to have that with your parents, because I know there's so many people who that's something that they want to do. They want to talk about these different things or do that, but they feel like they can't again. So for you, like you said, the more you did, you gain more confidence from speaking with your friend about this. And then I love how you put that to illustrate of pulling out the thorns and really working to heal those different things, because now that you've done that, it's almost like you did the work for other generations coming, like, because it follows, right? It can tend to follow. So because you did that healing work and were able to step into that and be uncomfortable and have those conversations and have those moments where you are in tears and you are moved to this because it's real and it's your real life and it's things that you've gone through and experienced, you're able to do that to show an example for your kids or other people that you're close with or who look at you and can see that. And it follows, because that's what I think is so beautiful, is although it is, and it's always work, right? It's not like you just did it
Oh,
one time and you're good, everything's good. Like what
yeah.
what do
No,
you still
it
do to maintain that? Yeah.
exactly. It's not easy, but nothing great ever comes easy.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing great ever comes from sitting in your comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
either. So you really need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then you really start to see the massive changes in your life. So, and I think that's one great thing that you touched on that's really, really important is not only do you need to heal for yourself, because your life is short, you don't want to continue stuck on this trauma cycle,
Mm-hmm.
but also trauma is generational. Do you want this for your children? Because I can guarantee you, if you don't start to heal and start to really work on things, your kids are going to go down a similar path.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not going to do it for you, do it for your kids.
No, and it's so shocking too sometimes when you find that out and can see that. And sometimes, when you want to have these different conversations, whether it's with your parents or, maybe your grandparents, right? And it's like, no, like, like, especially when you talked about how you were raised where you don't bring shame to the family, very similar to me as well. And a lot of other people that I know of not talking about that or not knowing how to talk about it, or people like want to change the subject because it's like, oh, like I don't know what to say or
Yes.
how to act or what to do. But it's amazing when you can, because just being there, like you said, having that outlet to have more of these conversations, like you said, is able to change the system that's in place that isn't working. When you're talking about different things with mental health, or especially with, mental illness and different diagnosis, when you can change that. And a lot of it too, it goes back to a lot of what you're saying is with your inner dialogue and how you're speaking to yourself and treating yourself, and almost been conditioned to do that through the abuse, like you mentioned. And abuse, like you said, is so great that you illustrated that, is it doesn't just look like one type, that we're all familiar with. Maybe it's like it has to be like this or this bad. Like you said, it could just be something that is on a different scale of, maybe a comment or, a bullying in a different capacity, or it could be all kinds of different things. But I love that you bring that up, because sometimes we don't know with and exactly how to help someone maybe that is experiencing that, or if we are. But like you said, the more conversations we can have to make it more normalized, to really make it less stigmatized, which is what you're working towards. And I love that with Meg Heart through how, especially the writing healing program. And also when you're talking about, I'd love to kind of get into more of carbon under pressure, and just like, that's amazing. Just
Yeah,
how did you, that's such a beautiful name. Beautiful.
it is. And it's actually you find out right at the end where the name came from. So
Mm.
I won't
Don't reveal.
share it to spoil it. Maybe we can do another catch up and really
Yes.
do a deep dive into carbon under pressure.
Oh my gosh. No, that would be, we definitely have to, because I know that's another whole thing for
Yeah.
itself. But I love that. And is this something, so with Meg Heart, is it something that people can go to help get their stories out with publishing, or is that
Yes.
something awesome?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So they can, yes, we've got publisher on board, we've got publicists, yes, we've got a legal team, we've got
Psychologist.
psychologists, yeah, it's just been incredible how it's been formed. And yeah, so we're there to help. So people can just reach out to us at megheart.com, which is Meg HEART.com, and subscribe to our newsletters, but also reach out to us. They can also follow us on Instagram, Meg Heart Author, or Facebook. But and we'll be keeping everyone up to date as we progress with these Writing to Heal programs, etc.,
I
and
love it.
everything,
Oh my gosh, that's so
everything that we're
exciting.
doing.
Yes,
So
that's
yes,
so, I love it. And I'm so glad that you were able to dive a little bit deeper into that and into your story and your experiences and what you've gone through in terms of overcoming these things, because just like hearing you now and seeing you just so lit up and excited and passionate and just overjoyed with helping people through this thing that you lived through and experienced yourself when it comes to abuse. And you talk about how difficult it was to leave a marriage and all of these things, and getting married very young and having, with your kids, and then wanting to help. And it is a lot, right? Especially when you have because we're all busy, everyone has busy this,
yep,
so many things going on, this, all these things that stack up. But we often sometimes forget ourselves in that and neglect our own selves. And it comes down to the foundation, which is our mental health for everything, and really being able to have that voice through writing or speaking or sharing with someone, like what Leigh's talking about, someone close to you that you love and you trust and who knows you well, and going to them to get their perspective and having that dialogue. And especially when you can put this down onto paper and you can go back and you can read that and say, and because I know there's definitely been times for me, like a long, long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, where I've written things and I can go back and read that and see into actually feel how I felt. And it's very emotional. And you will probably cry and, see like, oh my gosh, how was I once like this, or try to understand it. Because when you do that work, which what Leigh is talking about, is not easy. It definitely is challenging, but like she said, everything that is worth in life doesn't come easy, to continue to prioritize this and make yourself a priority and do these different things, whether that be having these relationships or these conversations, or listening to or doing more research or reading more books or going out and seeing other people's stories, and putting yourself in positions where you can meet other people who also are in the same interest of wanting to learn more about this, or psychology of different behaviors or things like that. Whatever it is for you, just to continue to do that brings joy to your life when you feel like it's very clouded with certain areas where you're not able to access that. There's always something that we can do or pull to or take a moment to tap into that. So I absolutely love it. And Leigh,
definitely.
you're amazing. So cool. Oh my
Oh, I don't
gosh.
know.
So
Oh, thank you. And the work you're doing is amazing. We need to keep speaking out and
Mhm.
supporting people to break their silence, and holding people accountable, and really working towards creating a culture that really supports our next generations.
Yes, absolutely. And again, tell us one more time, where can we find you?
You can find me at Meg Heart, which is MEGHEART.com. And you could subscribe to the newsletter or get in touch with us. But you can also follow us on Instagram, which is Meg Heart Author, and also Facebook.
Perfect. Oh my gosh.
So,
I will definitely be sure to include all of that in the notes, along with the notes that we took here with everything that Leigh has shared today, you guys. And honestly, I want to thank you for being here and tuning in and listening to this powerful story and the tips that Leigh shared and the advice and all of the stuff that she has accumulated through her experiences. It means a lot. And again, I want to say thank you to you, Leigh, for coming out here and sharing your journey, your story, your tips, and what you're doing at Meg Heart to help other people. So it means a lot. So thank you again.
Thank you, Paris.
Yes. All right. Bye, guys. And bye, Leigh.
Bye.
Bye.